Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays wherever you may be. I am eagerly awaiting my trip down to the beach. I'm headed to the beach on Thursday. We'll be down there all next week. Cannot wait. But in the meantime, I got to continue to dominate, and I got to roll. We got a bunch of stuff to get to today. Steph and Draymond Green were scintillating last night. The NBA ratings tank as your boy is once more proven correct. LeBron going west destroyed the NBA ratings. ESPN's president basically disavows WokeCenter because guess what? Ratings are bad for it. More wins for your boy. Kyle Schwarber breaks out the OK hand gesture. Wrigley Field ban imminent, we will discuss. And Arnold Schwarzenegger took a drop kick like a man, didn't even flinch. We will talk about Arnold. All that and more. Plus, there's a Nashville church shooting trial that is currently going on that is getting almost no attention. Why is that? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. I'll tell you all about it. But first, Steph and Draymond last night, two of the best performances we've ever seen in the playoffs. I love Draymond Green's game. I love that he's finally stopped flopping like a madman. Steph and Draymond both went for triple doubles last night, and now Steph is competing with history. Because this is a wild stat that I don't think has gotten that much attention. There are currently only 5 NBA players all time that have ever done what? That have ever won 2 MVPs and at least 4 championships. And those guys are Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Duncan, and Magic Johnson. If Steph Curry and the Warriors beat the Bucks or the Raptors in the NBA Finals, Steph Curry will become the 6th player in NBA history with 4 titles and 2 MVPs. He is close to becoming, in my opinion, it may drive some people crazy, the best point guard in the history of the NBA. Yes, I would rather have Steph than Magic Johnson. I said it. I think in this modern era of the NBA, Steph is better than Magic Johnson. Not as big, not as versatile when it comes to the post-up, but more difficult to defend than even Magic Johnson. Steph Curry making a case over the last several games for potentially being the greatest point guard in the history of the NBA in this era's type of game, all right? In the game that is played right now. Obviously, old school, before the three-point baskets and everything else, Magic with his size and skill would be different. But to me, Steph Curry making an argument to be the best point guard in the history of the NBA. Let me put it to you this way. With Kevin Durant gone, if you had to decide right now, if you were running the Golden State Warriors, I'm curious what your responses would be. If you had to keep only Steph or only Kevin Durant, which player would you keep? For me, it's Steph Curry. And Kevin Durant might be the best player in the NBA. I think he probably is. But Steph Curry is the best player to run the existing Warrior offense. I think the Warriors would be worse off without Steph Curry more than they are worse off without Kevin Durant. I think Curry complements Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and everybody else they have there. So this is, I think, an incredible talent. I believe that the injury to Kevin Durant has turned into a great opportunity for Steph Curry to remind everybody how good he truly is. And this, to me, has been a really entertaining run. Couple of other stats for you that I think are absolutely insane. The Warriors trailed in a series that they swept more minutes than they led. They were an underdog they were losing for 101 minutes, and they only led 83 minutes. I bet that has not happened very often in the history of the NBA in a sweep where someone has been in a position where they trailed for more minutes than they led and they won the series. Also, the Warriors are the only team in 20 years to overcome a deficit of 15-plus points in the postseason in 3 straight games. That is really pretty wild. And Steph Curry scored the most points in NBA postseason history by a player in a 4-game sweep. Finally, this is an intriguing stat. Back to my point on whether you would rather have Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. Neither play. When neither play, the Warriors are 1-6. When Kevin Durant plays without Steph Curry, the team is 28-18. When both men play, the Warriors are 163-46. And this, I think, is the stat that slams the door. Steph without Kevin Durant in their Warriors tenure, the Warriors are now 34-4. Think about that for a minute. When Steph Curry plays without Kevin Durant, when Kevin Durant is out with an injury and Steph Curry plays, the Warriors are 34-4. Kevin Durant can be the best player in the NBA and simultaneously not be the best player in the entirety of the team, which is wild to think about, but I think is accurate. All right, ratings. Remember back in like October when I was the first person in sports media to come out and say, hey guys, the NBA season has started and the NBA ratings are tanking because LeBron James moved to the West Coast, and a lot of people used to put on East Coast basketball starring LeBron James, and then that would lead to increased ratings on the West Coast. And I said, man, LeBron going to the Lakers is a disaster for the NBA. And I said, and I've said for a long time, the NBA doesn't have a league, it has a player. And I might need to modify that by saying it has a player in LeBron, and it also has a team in the Warriors, right? And so when you think about it, when you think about that overall, it is amazingly intriguing to break down, all right? So, think about this for a minute. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference between the Raptors and the Bucks got the lowest rating for an Eastern Conference or Western Conference final game in 12 years. This is wild. 12-year ratings low. And it's funny because there's such a disconnect between NBA Twitter fan who's like, the NBA is going to pass the NFL, and the fact that the ratings for Game 2 in the Eastern Conference fell just shy of 50%. All of the talk about the NFL ratings being down nearly 20% over 2 years. Front page story, major discussion. I bet I'm the only person you're going to hear talking about the NBA being down nearly 50% in the Eastern Conference for Game 2. The Warriors are a draw. LeBron James is a draw. There's a team and there is a player that people care about in the NBA. Outside of that, there's not a lot of interest. How bad was that rating? The NBA draft lottery, granted it's only a half hour, outrated the Bucks against the Raptors. It's wild. Absolutely insane, crazy stat that you probably won't hear anywhere else. The result is Adam Silver is now saying some of the same things that your boy said. He said LeBron James leaving the East hurts TV ratings, as I told you was true. And he also said the NBA could start West Coast games earlier. I think this would be smart. It's hard for the East Coast to stay up for late night West Coast games. You're also losing a younger generation of basketball fans. I'll give you an example. My 8-year-old loves the Warriors. He hardly ever gets to see them play because their games don't tip off until too late. Your boy here has got big bags under his eyes because I stay up and I don't sleep because I got to lead with whatever happened the night before in the world of sports, and I got to watch them. But I'm telling you, the audiences would be a lot more substantial if they would tip off many of these Western Conference playoff games at 8:30 as opposed to 9:30 my time. 10:30 on the East Coast is way too late. Start them at 9:30 on the East Coast. Play earlier on the East Coast. Start those games earlier. I think that would make a lot more sense. Okay? All right. We've been talking a lot about the OK hand gesture. We've sold hundreds of Chicago Cubs OK shirts. Well, let me tell you this. I tweeted out a picture last night, and it made Theo Epstein shiver. He didn't know what to do. He just suddenly was overcome by shivering. He had no idea how to handle it. What did I tweet out? This picture. Hold on. Before I show it, I want all of you to know, be careful, all right? I don't want this to overwhelm you. I don't want your delicate eyes to roll back in your head. I don't want you to grab your pearls and fall onto your fainting couch. I want you to all be prepared for what you're about to see, all right? I want you to be prepared for this. It's really, really a vile picture, and a lot of people would censor this, but I'm trusting all of you to be able to watch it. Are you ready? Oh my God! Kyle Schwarber did the OK sign last night. Can you see this? The result, huge controversy. The Chicago Cubs may have to ban Kyle Schwarber from Wrigley Field. They may also have to ban the circle changeup. There is major controversy budding in the wake of Kyle Schwarber hitting a triple and doing this in the direction of the bench and the individual who was inside of the dugout, Doug Glanville. It's a clear message from Kyle Schwarber that he is a white supremacist and that he is trying to send a message to Doug Glanville of his white supremacy. Was not the triple sign, was not the OK. Everybody knows this is only a sign of white supremacy. I hope Doug Glanville is able to survive this hand gesture sent in his direction. And if you think I'm being even ridiculous in satirizing this, Doug Glanville wrote a 2,000-word piece in the Sunday New York Times about how the OK hand gesture, a.k.a. the look, oh, did you see it? Boom, I'm going to punch you in the shoulder, about how that triggered him and he was unable to deal with all the racism that was surrounding him. By the way, Doug Glanville has previously written an article for The Atlantic complaining about being racially profiled. This is a guy who is a card-carrying member of the left-wing victimization club. He wants to be a victim more than he wants anything on the planet to happen because he wants a lot of people to say, oh, poor Doug Glanville, you poor baby, are you okay? Is there anything we can do for you? Can we give you some milk? Can we give you some cookies? Would you like your newest binky? What can we do to make you feel better, Doug Glanville? This is evidence of a major issue that exists in our country today, which is people desire being victims. And you don't have to go very far into Chicago to see it. Jussie Smollett created an entire victimization industry where he took advantage of the way the media covers stories and the media's desire for there to be awful racists who are always white men, and they will buy into anything there, even if it isn't in any way justified by the facts. All right. Did you guys see? Arnold Schwarzenegger took a drop kick like a damn champ. Did you see the video that went viral in South Africa? Arnold Schwarzenegger is down there probably promoting something with being a badass because Arnold Schwarzenegger is over 70 and still looks like he could just beat the crap out of anybody. He's standing not facing the drop kicker, and they're in a gym of some sort. And then a drop kicker comes running across the basketball court. He leaps, and he kicks Schwarzenegger right in the back, and Schwarzenegger barely even budges. My man Arnold didn't know that the drop kick was coming. He wasn't even facing the drop kicker. The drop kicker put the full force of the drop kick into his back, and he didn't even budge hardly. That is what you want to see from a man who starred in The Predator. That's what you want to see from the Terminator. That's what you want to see from the Kindergarten Cop. A man who is impervious to assault. His body doesn't break. He is the modern day unbreakable man. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you haven't seen that video, ultimate in DBAP. Take a drop kick right to the back. Probably would have broken most of us in half. We would have certainly fallen over. Arnold Schwarzenegger, barely even reacts. Would be a hell of a viral video moment to promote a new movie. If anybody wants to think about trying to do that, brilliant idea. All right, I want to talk about this for a minute because I'm betting most of you haven't heard about it. Did you guys hear about the church shooting in Nashville? This is something that I think should have gotten a ton of attention, but it didn't, and it's because of the way the media covers narratives in the country today. Let me go to it here for a minute, and I think it's intriguing to check out. All right, there is a man outside of Nashville. There's a little community called Antioch, still in the Metro Davidson area, Metro Nashville. A man showed up and said he wanted to kill a minimum of 10 white churchgoers. He's a black guy. He showed up in this part of Nashville with a gun, said he wanted to kill a minimum of 10 white churchgoers, and said that the reason why he wanted to do that because he wanted to make up for the fact that Dylan Roof killed black churchgoers in Charleston, South Carolina. So in both of these men's twisted, distorted, broken minds, the goal was to attack people of a different racial group. This was a response to what Dylan Roof had done. Think about how much attention the Charleston church shooting got, motivated as it was by a white racist. It is one of the most covered crimes in the history of America. Every single person here watching this show or listening to it right now heard about that shooting and the motivations, and you probably even know the name of the guy who did it. Why did this story in Nashville, another southern city, another church, why did it not get even 1,000th, probably not even 1,000,000th, as much media attention as the church shooting did in Charleston? I got a theory, and I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's right, because it didn't fulfill the racism narrative that is peddled over and over and over again in the mainstream media. You had a racist black shooter who was trying to kill white people, and that doesn't fit the narrative of modern day society where white men are villains and black victims are innocent and they are victimized. And as a result, I bet most of you are hearing about this case right now for the first time just as the trial starts. Okay? The trial is starting today. This was also wild. They sealed all the evidence in the case to try to protect it getting out. This happened on September 24th, 2017. The man was indicted and now is on trial for 43 counts. He killed one person and he wounded 7. And then this part of the story is also wild. A gun-carrying defender, a good guy with a gun, showed up and stopped the attack and incapacitated the shooter. So think about this for a minute. You have a black guy with a gun who shows up at a church and starts trying to kill white guys. You then have a guy who's an NRA, like, dream come true, right? A guy who stops a violent attack. And almost no one is talking about this story at all. Yet you have a hero who is stopping a black shooter. Now, this is fascinating because in Nashville, this same exact thing happened at the Waffle House. A crazy, deranged white guy showed up at the Waffle House, started shooting people, and a black guy was the hero who stopped the shooter, and that guy has been on a heroism tour for the past year. Yet a white guy who stops a crazy black guy from shooting, nobody even knows his name in the same city. I ask you this. If you changed the races in this story, and if a white person had shown up at a Nashville church and started trying to kill black people, do you think that this story would be buried and you would have never heard about it? Or do you think this would have turned into a modern day story proving how the Charleston shooter wasn't alone and providing evidence of how racist white people are in Donald Trump's America? I think you know exactly how this story would have been covered. And this is one of the things that really bothers me about the way modern media works. The modern media continues to cover this country like it's 50 years ago. I have had this really important thought that I wish a politician who is black, white, Asian, or Hispanic would embrace. And it is this idea, because I think it would revolutionize racial discussions in this country. And that idea is wild. It is this: white people can be racist, black people can be racist, Hispanic people can be racist, and Asian people can be racist. The way that the country discusses race now, you would think we are perpetually in 1960s Birmingham, Alabama, where white people are the villains and black people are the victims. As a result, all we get is the same tired cliche over and over and over again. What we need to acknowledge is that hate doesn't have a color and it doesn't have a race. And honestly, it doesn't even have a gender. And if that conversation would actually take place, if people would adopt what I consider to be a radical yet fundamentally true precept, which is this: all races have roughly equal percentages of racist within them. If that was adopted as the premise upon which the government covers issues, the media covers issues of race, and if it was the precept which undercut the way that people in this country who are running for political office discussed stories like these, we would have a much more honest and informative and forward-thinking policy as it pertains to race in this country. Instead, what you get is the media all the time, the media going out and trying to create the idea that white men are evil and that everyone else is a victim. And in the process, what you create is a victimized mindset, which creates fear and the idea that there is no one out there at all capable of overcoming white supremacy, even though white supremacy has never in any of our lifetimes been less powerful than it is right now. It's a powerful idea. It's a powerful way of thinking. And yet I want you to look at it and pay attention. You can go read that article if you want to about the black shooter who showed up and tried to kill white people, killed one of them, wounded 7 or 8 others before a good Samaritan stopped the attack from continuing. Why did it get a scintilla, 100,000th, a millionth of the coverage of the Charleston church shooting? It's because it doesn't fulfill the existing media narrative, which is constantly looking for white villains victimizing black victims. It's all it wants. It's rare, it almost never happens, and yet the media has convinced the American public that it happens all the time. We need more honest truth tellers in media, people who are willing to say the truth and not afraid of being called racist by saying it. That's why a lot of people don't talk about it, because they're afraid that if they touch the third rail of anything other than 1960s era racial politics in this country, that you will get burned. It's why, honestly, I think that a lot of these lawsuits being filed by Asians as it pertains to college admissions, Asian people destroy white people, black people, and Hispanic people in test scores, and they're being discriminated against even though they're a minority. I think these lawsuits have the potential to blow up the existing racial dynamic in this country. And again, I would encourage you to go check out my Twitter feed at Clay Travis. Follow this case, read it, and see how much coverage it actually gets. Finally, what else do I have here? The ESPN president has denied that, has acknowledged that WokeCenter was a disaster. I don't think I've talked about this yet. I've got some quotes for you, but I'm going to read it to you, and I think it's pretty interesting. This is Jimmy Pitaro, who's the new ESPN president. If you remember me telling you that WokeCenter was disastrous for ESPN's brand and also for its overall audience, he has said, and this is a direct quote from the LA Times yesterday, "Without question, our data tells us our fans do not want us to cover politics. My job is to provide clarity. I really believe that some of our talent was confused on what was expected of them. If you fast forward to today, I don't believe they are confused. My God, that is, the sheriff has come to town. Jimmy Pitaro, Bob Iger, everybody around ESPN finally realized that WokeCenter is an unmitigated disaster and that everything surrounding it was an unmitigated disaster for ESPN, and they are slowly untying themselves from all of the ridiculousness of the WokeCenter era. Predictably, I want you to think about this. How many people who used to come after me on social media and with articles and with columns and with their podcast, how many people out there have come out and said, you know what? Clay Travis was right. Clay Travis nailed this. Everybody who was in the sports media, the far left-wing sports media, they were all so triggered by me speaking the truth. Have you seen any of them come out and acknowledge, you know what? Clay Travis is right. Clay Travis diagnosed, long before the rest of us saw it, the truth of the matter, which was WokeCenter, far left-wing sports mixed with politics, was not in any way a winning strategy. And I did it years before ESPN did it, years before their disastrous decision started to cost them hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in lost ratings. All I say is this: come and hang with me. Step into my world. And what you will find is something very true. Most people tell you what's happening right now. I tell you what's going to be happening in the next several years. I see the future, and if you listen, you will as well. Get woke, go broke. It's never failed. It never will. I'm telling you right now, you, my friends, get an early preview at the future when you step into the mind, the myth, the legend, the world of DBAP extraordinaire, Mr. Clay Travis. I love all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays. If you like me, share the show. I will be back tomorrow, and I'll also be live on Lock It in about, 30 minutes or so, and we'll be breaking down the game tonight between the Bucks and the Raptors. I'm on the Bucks here, and we are going to win in a big level, in a big way. Okay, boys and girls, this has been Outkick the Show. See you guys. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.